back, and we are continuing a conversation with one of the women at the front lines of the fight for freedom in America. Her name is Kimberly Hermann. She is the General Counsel for the Southeastern Legal Foundation, and it is in courts across America trying to protect our constitutional rights and doing admirably, and so in many ways and cases. So, Kimberly, we've talked a little bit about the threat of critical race theory. Talk about what the Biden administration is doing as another part of, it seems to me, the effort to divide us and subvert us as a people. That also seems to be very much contrary to the law and even the Constitution of the United States. Um, in the name of advancing what are, I guess, now described as transgender rights at the expense of women's rights.
Yeah, so in our country, we have a thing called Title IX. It's part of the Civil Rights Act, and Congress passed this over 50 years ago with the purpose specifically of protecting women and women's sports on our college and university campuses and in our K through 12 schools. It means you can't discriminate on the basis of sex. And what they're doing is they're redefining what the word sex means. So according to the Biden administration, it no longer means a man or a woman. It will include things like sex stereotypes. It will include gender identity. It will include sexual orientation, largely things that they certainly did not exist as terms back in the 70s. And what they're doing then is they will violate our free speech rights, and they will completely and utterly gut women's sports as we know them in this country and set us back over 50 years.
And this isn't just a hypothetical problem. This is actually playing out as we speak with a biological man trouncing women in swimming competitions. I guess he lost one the other day, but overall has been not surprisingly taking advantage of his physical characteristics to compete unfairly with women. There seems to be a growing pushback by women and women coaches and other supporters of women's rights to all of this. But again, the question occurs: how do people who are advancing this, for want of a better term, transgender agenda, squaring what they're doing to mutate the law beyond recognition uh, with the fundamental principle, which at least until recently, most of them I think espoused very vociferously, namely the sort of feminist vision of women's rights and equality for women.
Yeah, a lot of the feminist groups have come out and said this is setting us back. This is taking away everything that we have fought for. It's been kind of an interesting marriage here of some of the conservative groups historically and some of the feminist groups because we're all fighting for the same thing, which
Even some
is for
homosexual
equality.
groups, as I understand it.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? At the end of the day, what they are trying to do is to use this to one, separate children and adolescents from their parents. We have this in the schools. We have it in our government at every single level, but at the schools is really where we see it being the worst. You change the definition of sex. You tell kids they can be anything they want, and we're not going to tell your parents about it. And it divides them. It separates from their parents. It's more of what we're speaking about with respect to critical race theory. We have this, queer theory that's being put into schools, and it's being implemented into our laws now by the Biden administration. And we're going to have to take this fight to the courts.
And again, I'm just mystified by how the Biden administration, justifies this, other than just a simple pander to one particularly vocal and I guess influential, constituent group within their coalition. But when you go to the courts, how are you faring there? Have you had any cases actually, get a judgment from a court so far?
We're at the beginning of the stages in the fight against the Biden administration's changes to Title IX. We sent a letter last week to the Department of Education with 25 other groups telling them don't make these changes, but now they're going to go through the rulemaking process. And we're probably about a year away from actually being able to file our first lawsuit on this, but we are going to work every step along the way through the rulemaking process to get in front of them, to get out there and to educate the American public. They need to know what's happening. On day one of his administration, Biden signed an executive order changing the definition of sex across many, many agencies. This has been coming in for over a year. We know it's coming. And again, the purpose is to end our American Republic and to destroy what we know as our society. It's
Yeah.
very sad.
Well, this is why we're focusing on it, because I think, a program like this that is committed to protecting the country we love needs to understand these are internal threats that have to be countered because they will ultimately undo us as a country. It raises a question that is a little bit more abstract, but I appreciate your thoughts on it. The Biden administration, it seems, in these regards, among others, is now, you know, utilizing rulemaking authority, as you call it, or regulatory action, as I think the president described it, increasingly to simply change the law, to rewrite the law in a clearly unconstitutional manner. To what extent does that feature in your arguments in court, or will it, do you think?
It will be front and center in the courts, whether it's the Obama administration or now the Biden administration, right? It's that the phone and the pen, and they think that they can do whatever they want, but there is a constitution, and it does not give the executive branch the authority to make the laws. That authority is with Congress, and so it will be front and center in these lawsuits and in many of those that we bring here at Southeastern Legal Foundation.
Well, again, God bless you in this important work. And I hope that, Kimberly Hermann, you will not only succeed at it, but you will also come back to us with updates on how it's going. And in both of these important battle spaces, it's vital that you prevail. So do carry on and keep us posted. Thanks to the rest
Absolutely.
of you for joining us for this edition of Securing America. I hope you feel better equipped to join us in doing just that. For more on what you can do, how you can help, I hope that you'll turn to securingamerica.tv. Also follow me at Frank Gaffney on all the platforms. And then, as always, go forth and multiply.